Hello, and welcome to 2021, the year of the ox. To celebrate, here are 5 things I love about the critically acclaimed 2004 summer blockbuster known as Spider-Man 2, directed by Sam Raimi. Let's start with number 1.
What do you think of when you think of Spider-Man music? Electric guitar, garage punk, maybe some 80s pop? Spider-Man has been interpreted in so many different ways over the years that we tend to even project our own musical preferences onto the character. But do you ever think opera? Elfman brings a sense of orchestra to these movies like no one else could have. Can you think of another superhero trilogy that uses the opera so effectively like this for its dramatic tone? Hearing the choirs bellow as we see our heroes swing across the city, it's almost like wind rushing past our ears, immersing us in the scene. Especially when it comes to swinging sequences, it's this intense soundtrack that really helps make us feel like Spider-Man. Elfman tends to reference or adapt other scores throughout his work to his style, like with the Mission Impossible theme, or the stuff that he did with Justice League. But to my knowledge, he didn't really do that with the Spider-Man movies. The scores are fully original, and I think that's a nice touch. On to the next thing. Number...
Cinematographer Bill Pope is a man of great respect, with movies like Clueless, The Matrix, and Scott Pilgrim to fill up his resume. Yet Spider-Man 2 feels like the cherry on top, the magnum opus, a showcase of his best all in one place, with magnificent shots that are iconic still to this day. The train sequence, the Spider-Man No More, the shot where we see him swinging about but then we zoom out to reveal we were looking through his sunglasses, the entire... you know what I'm talking about. But sometimes it's the small moments that work really good. And nothing better exemplifies this than the scenes throughout the film between Peter and MJ. First off, thanks to Job Levan, I do not know how to pronounce that, but I hope I got that right, for pointing this out to me in an amazing video that goes further into detail, linked below. It's common for characters who are close to each other to have some form of establishing dialogue together in a two-shot, where both people are in frame conversing. However, throughout the first acts of this movie, we never see the two of them on frame alone together. Even during the touching conversation in the backyard as the camera slowly crawls towards their face, it's all reverse one shots. The shots are somewhat representative of their fragile relationship, deeply intimate yet boarded off by the unspoken boundary of responsibility. But after Peter embraces a life of his own, after he gives up the terrible burden of being a hero for the city, he goes back to MJ, he goes back to the love of his life. And we finally see them together walking side by side on the streets of New York. A bit of chemistry between them, a bit of something we haven't quite seen before, but it hasn't been earned.
Peter, I'm getting married.
We cut back to the one shot, the ever so isolating one shot. Sure, there's a bit of hope. Peter tries to keep things going and MJ says she sees something different in him. But Peter is yet to truly decide who he wants to be and what he's willing to sacrifice. A character journey we continue to unwarp as the film enters its final act. There are many narrative tools at play here, but the lack of a solid two-shot as the film goes on, building up to the moment where Peter goes for what he wants, makes the small moment in this massive blockbuster feel like it was part of an indie movie. Being careful with the camera is the best possible way. Now let's move on to number...
Spider-Man 2 is a poem in a way. The philosophical pentameter of particular phrases, the symphonic nature of the swinging sequences across the skyline, the monumental moment.
You serious?
In the midst of the smooth beauty of Spider-Man 2 is the snap, crackle and pop of J.K. Simmons' performance. J. Jonah Jameson is a caricature of the traditional head of press. He's an absolute roller coaster of sanity. Sure, the streets of New York can be rough at times, but at least when the opera kicks in. We're brought to a place of mild peace. The Bugle, however, papers everywhere. Bustling phones, speed walking employees, it's almost like a bomb went off in the office. The perfect haven for a Triple J threat. The pacing of it actually works pretty well too. Villains get away in an action sequence, cut to the newsroom. Soft scene with MJ, boom, you're back to the Bugle. Peter triumphantly gets his powers back, cut to...
I want Spider-Man!
J.K. Simmons interrupts the slow moments of this film in the best possible way, and man, what a performance he delivers. I don't think enough people realize that this is the performance that put him on the spot. To go and do stuff like Portal 2, like Cora, like the absolute legendary performance of a lifetime in Terrence Fletcher. It all started here with good old Spider-Man. Now, along to number...
So, Mithy, you want me to talk about the train scene? I'm not doing that. It's literally the most talked about thing on all of film YouTube. Everyone knows it's good. What have you got to add that's so special? You've got nothing. I've got your script right here. You've got absolutely nothing to add. I'm not doing this. Just link to some other Raimi videos in the description that I'll actually talk about it. Let's move on.
Spider-Man 2 is peppered with so many deep character moments throughout its entire runtime. Scenes with MJ, conversations with Otto, the daily struggles of a spider hero with a crappy job. Sometimes it feels more of a drama than an action flick, rather a deep dive into Peter Parker's psyche than a casual summer blockbuster. But amongst all of them, no scene hits harder for me than Aunt May's speech to Peter before the third act of the film. It's not a busy set or a tense situation, it's just a few people moving boxes out of the house into the backyard. A cozy, comfortable place we've considered a true home. Rosemary Harris delivers her lines with such a tender and hopeful spirit. There's no big blowout or crazy argument, because that's not Aunt May's nature. Instead, she takes her true role as a comforting mother. What happened before doesn't matter so much to her anymore. Peter's opened up and spoken his truth, and for that, she's proud of him.
Spider-Man did that for Henry, and he wonders where he's gone. He needs him.
Does it matter whether or not Aunt May knows the full truth of Peter's story? No. The only important thing is that Aunt May relays her message about true heroism, about being that steady role model for those around us, about being the one who holds on for a second longer.
Even though sometimes we have to be steady and give up the thing we want the most. Even our dreams.
And so there you have it. The top 5 things I love about Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. What do you love about Spider-Man 2? Make sure to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe.
Alright, time to get real for a second. Twitter is a weird place, to say the least. On one side, it's a place where I've made valuable connections, met a great deal of amazing people, formed new friendships, and on the other side, well, that's another basket of eggs. But film Twitter specifically has continued to be this thing that fascinates me. There's always this constant debate of, what was it? Internal consistency versus emotional resonance? I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but sure. It's that core question. How much does plot and logic affect the enjoyability of a film? For me, well, I'll be honest, I don't really care for it, not as much as a lot of people on the site. I mean, I'll be honest, I never truly understood that mentality of picking apart a movie at the seams for its flaws. Sure, you can go on for minutes and hours on end, Twitter thread after Twitter thread, and every single detail, but at the end of the day, I'm sorry fellas, I just don't see bad writing. Like, sure, Harry should have defended himself by pulling a gun on Otto when he came in to take the tritium, but what does that really do to make the movie any better? Or sure, Peter could have used those extra seconds on the train to kick Otto off the edge or something and saved a lot of people on that train a bit quicker. But without that, we don't get one of the most iconic cinematic moments in history. Does sacrificing this climactic scene to fix an extremely minor logical fallacy of sorts really make the movie any better? At least the way I perceive it, there's this like invisible line with movies, and once you cross it, you can no longer really suspend your disbelief for this kind of stuff. But with Spider-Man 2 in specific, I've gone through the essays, these threads, these breakdowns, and I just don't see it. These small logic gaps aren't considered bad writing if those gaps allow the writer to progress on those characters and progress the story in an interesting way. Plus, I mean, some people just don't know where to stop. I know I shouldn't have high expectations for Spider-Man Twitter, but come on guys, you don't need to respond to every person that disagrees with you with a nasty remark or a clapback. That's stupid and pointless, and it's just a discussion of art that at the end of the day doesn't really matter. Spider-Man 2 is now on this dumb list of movies Twitter will keep going off about, and love it or hate it, that's probably not going to go away for a while. All I ask is that we have a less toxic discussion about this kind of stuff. We don't need to hound people for their opinions. We don't need to rant on against every single post, even slightly disagreeing with us. And who am I kidding? It's I'm talking to Twitter. You know, it's funny, I often look back on the videos and video essays I love on this platform, and I feel like creators tend to be at their very best when they're talking about the stuff they adore, the stuff they love. It can be Gus Johnson ranting about how much he loves Chris Hansen's return to form, Jay Schlatt revisiting a game from his past that made him who he is today, or Bailey dissecting the ins and outs of how the ultimate action odyssey does whatever it takes. There's a certain energy, a certain drive, a certain passion that I see in these videos that I don't think you can quite get out of something more critical. It's kind of why I don't really make negative videos anymore. It's why I feel a little uneasy knowing that the first video essay I ever made was on me being disappointed in a film that I don't really even care about. But it's also why I loved making content this past year. The process behind making these retrospectives and love letters is more therapeutic than anything else. It's a process I enjoy every second of, no matter how grueling, and nothing beats that extremely cathartic feeling of finally exporting that massive premiere file, clearing the copyright border patrol, and putting it up for the world to see. And from what YouTube Studio tells me, I think you guys like this stuff too. This video isn't a solution to Spidey Twitter, not even in the closest. It's not going to magically solve everyone's problems, but I just wanted my piece out there, you know, and you can take from that what you want. Response videos, clapback tweets, I can't stop you, man. Just be cool with it. I'm just gonna stay here in my small little corner, making the stuff I love to make on the stuff I love to love.
I'm asking this particularly of young people that watch. Please do not be cynical. I hate cynicism. For the record, it's my least favorite quality. It doesn't lead anywhere. Nobody in life gets exactly what they thought they were going to get. But if you work really hard and you're kind, amazing things will happen. I'm telling you, amazing things will happen. I'm telling you, it's just true.
Happy 2021, everyone. Cheers to the year of the ox.